Do you need to have a light meter? The short answer is no. I know, the YouTube expert's gonna say, hey, this guy doesn't know anything, he doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, blah, blah. Well, I never been using Lightmeter, and I've been filming for like 7 years and photographing for a very long time. Let me explain. Every modern digital camera have a little Lightmeter at the very bottom. And that thing basically, when it's in the middle, it's showing you the perfect exposure. To be fair, what's the point of the Lightmeter? Why all the professionals using Lightmeter? I'm not saying you shouldn't use it, but let me explain you what it does first. A Lightmeter, you take a reading, and it's basically on the screen tells you the shutter speed, the f-stop, and stuff like that. And then you go in the back and you do another reading, for example, of the background, and it's going to show you a different number. Therefore, now you know the contrast ratio between your foreground, aka the subject, and the background. And the reason why I don't personally use the Lightmeter, first of all, because it takes too much time. And I always been sort of like a lone wolf filmmaker, so I don't really have time to go and measure things and stuff like that. Another reason why I don't use Lightmeter is because I use what's called false colors, and I have the false colors on all my cameras, and basically what it does, it's a color representation of whether you have a normal exposure, underexposed, or you're clipping too much. And it's basically much more simplified way of knowing where your exposure is standing and what you need to do instead of walking around with a Lightmeter and clicking and measuring. Now, if you would be doing a high budget film set, if you would be doing something very high budget, we have a lot of people crew this and that, in that case, yes, using Lightmeter would be more appropriate. And the reason for that is, let's say something didn't work out and you have to reshoot the scene, let's say a month later. On a professional set, you have people always recording measures of your Lightmeter. Let's say that corner over there, this reading, that wall over here, that reading, somebody's recording that. And if you need to reshoot something, you can always use that Lightmeter data to kind of go back and sort of know exactly where your exposure was. So you can, more or less match the same lighting. Now, if you're on the budget filmmaker, you don't need to use Lightmeter. There's tons of options. Most of the camera, including actually this camera right now that I'm doing all my vlogs on, it's Panasonic G7, have histogram. Now, before we didn't have all those kind of fancy stuff like histogram, waveform, and stuff like that. Now we do, and just basically looking at that information, you can really pinpoint exactly what's going on with your shot. If you can afford one, if you're type of a person really you want to be measuring everything, you have time for it, go ahead and get one. If you're kind of on the budget, I really recommend you getting a little false color by a Small HD or Blackmagic or whatever other brand is, and kind of use the false colors instead. That way, it's much easier for you, you're going to work much faster, and basically you're going to see visually exactly what's going on your screen without kind of thinking like the measurement and the contrast ratio and stuff like that. So hopefully this video helped you guys a little bit. Leave the comments below whatever you think, and I will see you in the following videos.